What's up, everyone? Welcome to my channel. It's Mulatto American. This video is about how monoracials are programmed to view mixed race people as being better than them. In the monoracial world, the idea of mixing runs deep. You have stories of mixing in their ancient texts, even to present day. The idea that mixing species, mixing breeds, and yes, even mixing races results in a superior result. Even present day, there are some groups of people that believe humanity is a mixed breed between monkeys and aliens, where they benefit from having the intelligence of aliens and being advanced, being able to create all this technology and being able to seclude themselves from the wild animals while also being of earth and being able to be a part of the earth. But then some of these people, they say like that's why people feel like they're from the earth, but then they're not from the earth. You know, it's weird because they don't have God in their lives. But I'm just using that as an example to show how the idea of mixing runs deep in the monoracial world. You all have to understand that the idea of mixing really fascinates people. It really fascinates the monoracials. So much so that they make movies and TV shows about it, where a person comes from two worlds. Now they have superpowers and they have to wrestle between the human world and their other side. In this video, I'm going to use a few TV shows that depict this phenomenon that I believe really capture the experience of being a mixed race person in this monoracial world. So the first example I'm going to use is Danny Phantom. And I know this show, as well as the other examples, are considered children's shows or for young teenagers. And so some of you might be thinking like, oh, well, this is childish. But the point of this video is to show the programming that goes on with the monoracials. And this starts as young as when they are kids and preteens. So this video is to show that the programming starts early, right? And then as they matriculate through life, then all their other experiences and everything they're exposed to just compounds onto this idea. And also, I think it's good to show these TV shows that some of us grew up watching, because it can give us a different perspective on our own experiences. Or maybe we might have an aha moment where we say, oh, that's why I related so much to this character, or that's why this scene or episode really spoke to me. Or who knows, maybe like some people even compared you to these characters. So with that being said, let's begin. So Danny Phantom was a human until he got these ghost powers from this portal. Then he woke up and he became part human, part ghost. And if you watch the show, then you saw how he wrestled with his identity while he was trying to live in the human world, despite his ghost powers always slipping up and slipping out. And sometimes people would even call it out and be like, what's that? That was weird. And then he would have to come up with some excuse to maintain the facade of still being a full human. And in the show, he was put in the position, or rather, he put himself in the position of being a hero, where he would fight the ghosts to save the humans. But then as the show progressed and it started to become more mature, then he started to become confronted with the idea from other ghosts who challenged him and said, wait, well, why are you fighting against us? Aren't you a part of us too? Especially when it was revealed that his uncle was also part human, part ghost. And his uncle actually tried to mentor him and say, hey, you know, why are you fighting the ghosts on behalf of the humans when you could be on our side? And besides, don't you see how the humans, how they would treat you if they knew what you really were? But of course, either way, no matter what side he chose, he would just be a tool to be discarded once they got what they wanted. So I think this show and the character really does a good job of showing what it's like being a mixed race person in America, especially if you're a mulatto, you know, being half white and then half non-white, knowing how they treat you, you know, when you go and one side, they expect you to neglect the other side. You're just supposed to pretend like you don't know what you really are, or like that other side exists. And then both sides, you'll experience where both sides will reject you, but then some people will try to recruit you and say, well, why are you fighting against us? Like, aren't you a part of us? You could be on our side too, And the feeling of needing to choose one side, but then the other side always slips out. And then people look at you like, what was that? That was weird. What are you? And then, like the character Danny, he has to overcorrect and create some kind of excuse. Kind of like how when you're around certain people and they'll be like, oh, that's your white side coming out. Or even around like the other side, and then they'll be like, oh, that's your black side coming out. Especially when you do or say something that disagrees with the majority, then they're quick to correct you, and say, oh, what was that? It was like your white side just jumped out like a ghost. And even though Danny fought on behalf of the humans, even he knew that he wasn't fully accepted by either side, because he knows if he goes with the ghosts, then there were also some ghosts who didn't like him because he was part human. If he went with the humans, he couldn't even be honest with what he really was, because then people would look at him like he's a freak. They would reject him. They would probably do experiments on him. And, some people would admire him, but then with that, there comes a lot of jealousy and envy. Some people would even try to take him out, So even he knew the risk, and yet he still chose to quote unquote pass and just try to be a part of them and be this vigilante. But it's like, what did he even get in return for it, Like with us mixed race people, especially the ones here in America that choose to be some activists and fight on behalf of one side against their other side. But then it's like, well, what do you get out of being an activist? Because you're here fighting for them, but who's fighting for you? They put all this pressure and guilt saying you got to fight for them. But what have they been doing for the last 100 years? Why did they look at you like you're the key, like you can just fix all their problems? And that's another thing that a lot of these characters that I'm going to discuss, what they have in common is that a lot of them come from worlds where this conflict has been going on for decades, for centuries. And then all of a sudden, once this character who is from two different worlds, once they step onto the scene, then all of a sudden people put all this pressure on them and they're like, you have to save us. You're the only one that can save us. And then they come in and like save the day in like a year or something. And it's like, but what were they doing all this time? And this just goes back to the programming of how these monoracials are programmed to look at mixed race people as if they're better. And so that's part of why they expect us to go out and help them and fight for them, because they really think that we have some kind of advantage or superiority, that we can do things that they can't do. And the thing with Danny Phantom, unlike some other superhero characters, is that he couldn't have even chose one side even if he wanted to, kind of like us mixed race people who think that they can choose a side, and then they end up being stressed out and having low self-esteem, because no matter what, no matter how comfortable you feel, no matter how comfortable you think other people are with you being in their spaces all the time, like it just doesn't work. Because even with Danny Phantom, if he had chose to live in the ghost world, well, his ghost powers or his ghost mode didn't last indefinitely. Like there was a cutoff time where it's like, okay, you got to go back to being more of a human, but still possessing like subtle ghost qualities. And then when he was in his more human mode, then he still had these ghost powers and qualities that, were a bit more subtle, but he couldn't go back to living like just a human, like the way he was before. He was just always caught in between the two worlds. And another thing you'll notice in the show, and they even point this out in the theme song, is that once he became part human, part ghost, then even his appearance changed and he became objectively more attractive. Also, speaking of the theme song, because a lot of these theme songs also have programming messages within them about mixing. So if we were to analyze some of the lyrics in the theme song, starting from the beginning, we have the lyric, his molecules got all rearranged. And I take that as a nod to them acknowledging that he's never going to be the same. So like I said before, no matter what side he chose, even if, he chooses to be with the humans at the end of the day, but even they know that he's not quite the same as them, because on a molecular biological level, like, he got all rearranged. Then later on in the theme song, we see a scene where Danny's being shoved in the locker by some jock because he would get bullied, right? And then he activates his ghost powers, flies out of the locker, and then shoves his bully into the locker instead. And then the lyric on top of that is, he was much more unique than the other guy. So this is a nod to them acknowledging that you're different. People view you when you're mixed race, when you come from mixing, then you are unique. People view you as unique, as different. I mean, in mainstream world, they use words like exotical or tropical, but then, you're also unique, you're different, and people know this. Just like in my previous video, that's why they monitor you. That's why they watch you so intensely and put a magnifying glass up to you. And then him shoving his bully into the locker is also another nod to them believing that mixed race people are superior to them, whether in strength or in other ways. I mean, especially relating to mulattoes, there's the whole white mind, black body theory. And even a popular podcaster like Joe Rogan has spoke about this before publicly on his own channel. Then the next lyrics say, it was then that he knew what he had to do. He had to stop all the enemies. He's here to fight for me and you. And so this is the programming for both the monoracials and the mixed race people, because it programs the monoracials to look at people like us and say, it's your job to fight for us. You need to choose our side and fight our battles and fight against your other side. And then it programs the mixed race people to think they got to be a servant. Like, their mission in life is to just continuously fight other people's battles. And then you see in the animation that Danny's literally running after a ghost trying to get it, right? Just like how these people, a certain demographic, keep fighting against ghosts, keep fighting against their own trauma and things that happened hundreds of years in the past, and now they want you to chase after it and try to be their hero, instead of just doing you, living your life, building your own communities and building your own thing, your own structure. And so, like I said before, it may be a childhood show or preteen show, but have to admit that there are a lot of parallels between this show and other shows similar to it and the plight of mixed race people, especially in America. And, like I said, it's all programming. So like movies, TV shows, music, they use this to program people for certain agendas, sometimes more obvious than not. And the unfortunate reality for people who were in a position like Danny Phantom, where they were just the only ones where they lived, then they really did feel the pressure, like they were forced to choose one side or the other. And it's like, okay, you chose this side, so now you have to fight against the other side to save us. So if a character like Danny Phantom, or even in real life, if there were more of them, then they would just be able to live their lives. Like, they wouldn't be caught up in that dynamic. They would have more power, more influence. And so obviously now that's changing in modern times, now that more and more multiracial people are being born in America, and that we're actually the number one fastest growing population by percentage. And so this is just something I've noticed for a while, And it's one of those things where you kind of think like, oh, it's just kind of like a little crazy or out there. But I was like, whatever, I'm going to make a video about it, because if I notice it, then it's for a reason. And so I'm going to make a video about it, because I know my reasons are usually good reasons. And another thing I noticed with these kind of shows is, have you ever noticed how when a character isn't mixed with something else, then they don't need to hide their identity? So for example, like Kim Possible, Jimmy Neutron, and Sky High, etc., etc., they weren't a mixed breed or mixed with any other type of species or thing. They just happened to have like higher abilities than the other human. But notice how they didn't need to hide their identity. Everyone knew who they were, right? But then the minute a character is mixed with something, now they have to hide their identity, and they have to choose one, but also choose a side to fight for. I'm honestly not that well versed in the superhero world, so that's just kind of what I know, like from childhood and teenage years. So maybe somebody who knows more about that stuff could share some insight, because as far as I can see, that's usually how it goes. And I'm going to include the other characters in separate videos, because this video just for Danny Phantom ended up going way over than what I thought it would. If you like this content and want to see more from the mixed race perspective, then like this comment, be sure to share and subscribe it. And I always want to know your thoughts on this matter, so leave your comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.